I spent all night setting up a surprise anniversary dinner. She walked in, laughed, and said, "You seriously thought this would fix you being better?" Her friends were waiting outside to take her clubbing. I just blew out the candles. 3 weeks later, she showed up at my office, sobbing. "I'm 33M. My wife Ellie is 31F. We've been married for 5 years, together for 7. And last month, on what was supposed to be the night I reminded her, and maybe myself, why we ever said I do, I found out exactly what she thought of me. Let me back up just a bit. Not too far, don't worry. We've always been opposites. She's energy and style, club music and espresso martinis. I'm quiet dinners and playlists with sad indie guys who strum heartbreak into microphones. Somehow we made it work, or at least I thought we did. Until lately, the last 8 months were cold. Not icy, just tepid. Our conversations were clipped. The touches faded. The I love you started sounding like daily reminders, not something felt. It wasn't some massive blow-up or cheating scandal that I know of. It was death by 1,000 yawns. Still, I loved her. I love her. And I thought maybe I'd been pulling back too. Maybe she just needed a reminder of us. So for our 5th anniversary, I decided to go all in. I told her I'd handle dinner. That's all I said. She didn't ask any more than that. Didn't seem curious, but I chalked it up to surprise. I took the day off work, cleaned the apartment top to bottom, lit candles, actual wax ones, not the LED junk, set the table with cloth napkins, made her favorite dish, spinach ricotta stuffed shells with roasted garlic and basil tomato sauce. Even made a playlist of songs we slow danced to at our wedding. I set it all up. Roses, the dress shirt she once said made me look like I belong on a movie poster, and a damn smile I hadn't worn in weeks. I was nervous, excited, hopeful. She was supposed to be home by 7:30. She walked in at 9:17 p.m. I remember because the oven clock glared at me like a cruel punchline. I'd reheated the food twice, blew out and relit the candles because they were melting into wax puddles. My shirt was damp from the steam. I smelled like wine and burned bread. And when she walked in, the first thing she did, she froze, looked around the room like she'd stepped into the wrong apartment, then laughed. Not the cute, "Oh my God, you shouldn't have" kind. No, this was sharp, dry, like she was embarrassed for me. Then she hit me with this, "You seriously thought this would fix you being better?" I blinked. "Better?" I asked. I wasn't angry yet, just confused. She set down her bag, gave me this look like I was a dumb kid who'd just brought home a report card with a D in effort. And then I heard it. Heels on the sidewalk. Voices outside the door. Laughter. She turned and called out over her shoulder, "2 seconds. He actually tried. I'll be right out." I said, "Ellie, what's going on?" She walked to the mirror, checking her makeup. "Going out with the girls. Clubbing. It's our anniversary." Exactly. She turned and gave me this look like I was the one who ruined her night. And I've spent the last 2 years being married to someone who thinks a few candles and overcooked pasta can make up for God. Everything. You don't listen. You just perform. She grabbed her clutch. "Don't wait up." Then she walked out. Didn't even look back. I stood there, alone, in a room that smelled like disappointment and garlic. I blew out the candles, took off my shirt, sat at the table and stared at the full plates. I didn't eat, couldn't. My stomach was a mess of acid and air. The next morning, I woke up to her asleep on the couch. Glitter on her collarbone, makeup streaked. I didn't say a word, just showered and left for work. And for the next 3 weeks, we lived like roommates who barely tolerated each other. No apology, no confrontation, just silence. Then yesterday happened. She showed up at my office, red-eyed, puffy, mascara clinging to the corners of her lashes like regrets. No warning, no call, just stood there in the doorway, hugging her elbows like the building might collapse if she let go. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice so small I barely recognized it. I told her she had 5 minutes. We sat, and I said one sentence, just one. She didn't even make it to the end of it before the dam broke. Sobbing, ugly sobbing, the kind you don't fake, the kind that makes your whole body convulse like it's trying to cough up shame. She begged me to let her explain, said I didn't understand, that it wasn't what it looked like. But here's the thing. She cried not because she missed me. She cried because I finally did something she never expected. I took myself off the table. And now she's realizing that maybe the one person who always stayed, even when he shouldn't have, finally stood up and walked away, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And that's what broke her. Edit. A lot of people are asking what I said to make her fall apart like that. I'll tell you in the next update. But I'll leave you with this. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't loud. It was just the first time I told the truth out loud, with no hope left attached to it. Update soon. And yeah, it gets worse before it gets better. Update 1. Hey again, Reddit. It's been 2 days since my last post, and I'm still trying to process what happened. Some of you guessed right. She didn't come back because she missed me. She came back because she finally realized she can't outrun who she really is. And I made sure of that. Let's rewind. So when Ellie showed up at my office, I didn't know she'd been crying for hours. She looked like someone who'd just walked through the ruins of her own life barefoot. Can we talk? She said. I told her, you've got 5 minutes. She sat down, trying to steady herself like she was bracing for impact. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask how she'd been. I just reached into my desk drawer and pulled out an envelope. I slid it across the table and said, I talked to Megan. And that's when everything cracked. Let me explain who Megan is. Megan's my cousin. She works in HR at a marketing firm downtown, same one that handles account support for a luxury events brand. She also happens to be the person who got Ellie that freelance gig last year managing social content for Lumiere events. Now, a few days after the anniversary disaster, something had been eating at me. Not just the clubbing, the timing of it. The fact that Ellie looked done up like she wasn't going to a bar, but like she was walking into a photographer's lens. I know that look. It wasn't casual. So I asked Megan if Lumiere had had any client events on our anniversary. Her reply? Weird timing. Yeah, actually, they had a VIP brand launch at the Dorset. High profile. Invite only. I asked if Ellie worked it. Megan said no. Ellie didn't even show up for her scheduled shifts that week. She wasn't clubbing. She was at that event. Not working. Invited. So I asked Megan for photos. Screenshots. Anything public. She found one. Blurred background. Candid shot of a few guests laughing with champagne flutes. And there she was. Ellie. In a black silk dress I'd never seen before. Leaning into a guy who looked like he owned the building. His hand was on her lower back like he'd been there before. That's the photo I printed and put inside the envelope. That's what I slid across the desk. When she opened it, she turned a shade of pale I didn't know human skin could go. She looked like she'd been punched in the soul. Then she asked, where did you get this? I just said, you weren't with your friends. You lied. On our anniversary. Again. She started talking fast. Denying, spinning, saying it was nothing. She said she didn't sleep with him. That it was just a networking thing. A presence appearance. That she didn't tell me because I wouldn't understand. And that's when I said the sentence that broke her. I said, you know what's wild, Ellie? I used to think the worst thing would be finding out you didn't love me. But now I realize the worst thing was staying loyal to a version of you that hasn't existed for years. She tried to speak. I kept going. I built my life around someone who sees love as a currency. Who walks into a room and asks, what does this get me? And the saddest part? I was still setting the damn table hoping you'd sit down. She was shaking at this point. I thought she was going to faint. Then she whispered something I wasn't ready for. He promised he'd leave his wife. I froze, because I hadn't asked. Not once. But there it was. She said she met him 6 months ago at a client dinner. He was charming, rich, said all the things I stopped saying. Bought her gifts. Called her magnetic. Told her she deserved more than a 9-to-5 husband who thinks candlelight dinners erase boredom. She said it started emotional. Then it didn't. Then she thought maybe it meant something. But last week, he ghosted her. Just vanished. His number disconnected. His social media accounts wiped. The brand still exists, but there's no trace of him. Turns out his name was fake. And now she's unraveling. Crying in my office. Begging for forgiveness from the only person who ever built something real with her. I asked her to leave. She clung to my desk like it was going to anchor her. I told her the truth. I can't fix what you broke by trying to upgrade me. Then I stood up and walked out of my own office. Jenny, our receptionist, watched me pass by. Asked if I was okay. I said, yeah, I think I'm finally starting to be. Edit. Yes, I've talked to a lawyer. No, I'm not jumping straight to divorce papers yet. But I've opened that door. There's more to this story. Much more. You think this was the twist? Buckle up. Because tonight, I got a text from someone I never expected to hear from. And what he told me, let's just say this wasn't her first time. Update 2. Hey again, Reddit. So after Ellie broke down in my office and confessed to falling for a ghost in a silk suit, I thought that was the worst of it. But like everything with her lately, the bottom keeps dropping out. Last night, around 11:48 p.m., I got a message on Signal from an unknown number. Just 5 words. You don't know the half. Then another. Green storage box in your attic. Back corner. You'll find what I did. First, I thought it was a prank. Or maybe Ellie trying to manipulate me in some twisted guilt spiral. But when I replied, I got a final message. We both thought we were the only one. Good luck. Then he unmatched. Deleted. Gone. Couldn't sleep. So yeah, I went to the attic. Pulled the light chain. Ducked past cobwebs and insulation. I've lived in this house for years. Never noticed a green box in the back. But it was there. Duct-taped. Labeled in faded Sharpie. Zmaz/old docs. Inside, definitely not Christmas stuff. What I found was a time capsule of someone I don't even recognize anymore. Photo albums. Legal papers. A faded pink envelope with B.T. written on it in Ellie's handwriting. And a marriage license. To someone else. Ben Thomas. Married to Ellie in 2014. Divorced in 2016. She never told me she was married before. Not once. I sat there in the attic, cold air crawling over my skin, reading documents I wasn't supposed to find. The police report hit me in the chest like a truck. Filed under emotional coercion, financial isolation, alleged threats. Ellie claimed she left Ben because he was toxic, dangerous, manipulative. She told the court he controlled her bank accounts, threatened to ruin her career, and made her feel like a prisoner in her own home. But attached to the report, Ben's statement, along with a dozen printed screenshots of messages Ellie sent to her boss at the time. Another married man. Don't worry, Ben's too naive to notice. Once I move in with you, I'll file first. He won't see it coming. He keeps talking about kids. Gross. And the worst one, marriage is a stepping stone, not a destination. She played him too. I sat there stunned. This wasn't just infidelity. This was patterned. Precise. The strategy. She finds a good guy, safe, stable, and when she's bored, she hunts for someone shinier, then blows it all up like it's his fault. Ben tried to expose her during the divorce, but she got ahead of it. Claimed emotional abuse. Got the sympathy. Got the house. He got silence. And now, nearly a decade later, she was trying to run the same playbook on me. But it gets worse. At the bottom of the box was a small red USB drive. I didn't want to plug it in. I honestly felt sick. But I did. Dozens of videos. Some were phone recordings of her ranting. Some were selfie clips she'd sent to other guys. I recognized the tone. Sweet, breathy, confessional. But one stuck out. It was labeled, Practice Anniversary Monologue. She's in our bedroom. Hair done up. Wearing that same black dress from the VIP event. She looks into the camera and says, You seriously thought this would fix you being better? Word for word. She practiced that line. She rehearsed mocking me. This wasn't a reaction. It was performance art. I shut the laptop and just sat there. Everything I've questioned for the last 2 years, the distance, the put-downs, the gaslighting, it wasn't random. It was designed. Weaponized indifference. And I'd been serving dinner to a woman who was already building her exit story. But now, I have evidence. All of it. The marriage license. The police filings. The texts. The USB. This isn't just a woman having second thoughts about her marriage. This is someone who spent her entire adult life rebranding herself depending on who she's with, and annihilating anyone who catches on. This morning, I dropped the green box at my lawyer's office. He took one look at the contents and said, We're not just filing for divorce. We're filing for safeguards. Because Ellie, she's not going to go down quiet. She's going to claw, cry, blame. She'll spin every ounce of this like she's the victim of emotional neglect. And I'm ready for that now, because I finally know who I married. And I know how to beat her at her own game. Edit. To the people saying, You should have seen this earlier. I agree. But you don't go into a marriage assuming it's a long con. You don't wake up and expect the person beside you to be an emotional arsonist. But I'm awake now, and I'm not the one on fire. Update 3. Court was this morning. Ellie wore white. Not a clean, hopeful white. a calculated one. She looked like someone trying to play innocent wife in a Hallmark movie that cuts to black before the truth comes out. She tried to cry, claimed emotional abandonment, claimed I refused to communicate, that I isolated her by, get this, cooking dinner instead of going out. My lawyer just smiled and waited for her to finish. Then we dropped the box, the photos, the USB, the first marriage, the rehearsed lines, her exact quote from the video labeled practice anniversary monologue. The judge went quiet, flipped through the exhibits. Then he looked at her and said, "You didn't just lie, you choreographed it." He granted the divorce, full protection of assets. I walk away clean, no alimony, no split, nothing owed. As we left the courtroom, Ellie followed me down the marble steps, heels clacking like the end of an era. She hissed, "You were just collateral damage." I didn't flinch, didn't turn around, just said, "Then why do you look like the one bleeding?" And I kept walking. Edit, that's it. No dramatic revenge, no public takedowns, just the truth. And for once, that was more than enough. Thanks, Reddit. I'm done setting tables for people who bring matches instead of meals.